When a hustler meets a system, business magic happens. Next up on the Two Business Guys Mastermind. Enjoy. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So Rob, on today's web class, everybody, we're talking about when the hustler meets the system. And so jump in on this energy, guys, the 2BGM energy. You guys know that right now we are pursuing a really, really big goal. And we're talking about make 100 grand in 90 days, 100K in 90 days, right? So now think about this for a minute. If we plan on making that much, that means we're going to make the companies we work with a lot more, right? So we happen to be talking about the hustle mentality and then the systems person mentality, right? And like Rob says, hey, I'm not a hustler, right? I mean, I don't put a whole bunch of things together and all this, but Rob, continue on with that energy that you were talking about, because I think when you guys listen in on this and you see, hey, what lane you're in, and then we start talking about the systems, you'll see how we're going out there finding companies this money. Like Rob said the other day, hey, how we charge, if we find you 10, give us 5. If we find you 20, give us 10. So imagine how can you say no to a proposition like that? We want to find you money first. Most people lead with what do you charge? And then they base all the stuff, their fears and all that. We're saying, if we find you this, give us this. Now that 50% you want to give us, you didn't have it at first. So we don't let people get scared from that.
That's 10 continually. That's not 10 next month.
Yeah, we're talking about, hey, listen, there's a certain approaches that we can take to business, right? And the model that you can apply to business. Now, think about this hustlers out there that you like, hey, I get my money. I got $5 grand last month. Well, we're talking about getting that $5 grand on a continuous basis because you put systems in place. You put something in place that allows that person to see, that business to see how you can be of service to them. So Rob, go ahead and continue on.
So in that space, like one of the things I was talking about is kind of because a lot of times people will go through kind of that existential crisis, right? I love working with hustlers because hustlers are right. I know I can help hustlers because hustlers have a drive
and energy.
It's an energy, and it's a ability to do trial and error comfortably. Right. I have never been personally comfortable with trial and error. Go back into, and I've worked with counselors, therapists, mentors, all the above, and a lot of it goes to, right, I'm a recovering perfectionist. You and I talk about this all the time. We really deal with I growing up, I wanted to do things right. I wanted to not make mistakes. Right. I fell into that routine of what you get conditioned in school and what you get conditioned in, where if you make mistakes, something's wrong with you. Right. And I wanted to make sure that nothing was wrong with me. So I tried to make sure that I made no mistakes. And that's still something that I struggle with even today. Right. Even with all the things that I've done. But one of the things that I look at now is with the hustlers that I deal with, the people that have that ability to trial and error, knock it out. I can give them a system that harnesses that energy. And we were just talking about one of our students that started with us in this other program that we do for beginning entrepreneurs. She was making about $1,000 a month when she first started. She read my book, and then she went through the program that we were talking about. And in about a 45 to 60 day time span, she went from working jobs 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and being, burning the candle at both ends, to she was finishing her workday by 6 p.m. every day. Now she's a mom with 3 kids as well, but she was finishing her workday by 6 p.m. every day. And she went from making about $1,000 a month to making top line revenue over $5,000 a month and taking home, even with paying out all of her extra help and everything else, taking home 50% of that $2,500 to $3,000 a month every month. So she doubled her profits and, quintupled her top line revenue. And this was one of the things that we were really looking at. This is what I love to do. This is what I help with. But what I was talking to Randy about was, for those of you all out there that are not hustlers, but you're in business, right? This is the pathways, the journey that I went on. I remember that I used to envy hustlers. I used to look at hustlers and be so in awe of them, because that's not how my brain works. Where I'm comfortable is working smarter, not harder, right? But I had been groomed and grown up to believe that working hard was good in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That hard work was a virtue. Right. And what that did for me, the struggle that it did for me was, because I'm a systems guy, I'm a work smarter guy. But I remember I was talking to one of my business coaches about this. It used to make me feel bad that I would figure out how to do things faster, because in my mind, I would tell myself that I was lazy. That's the reason why I was trying to do it faster, because you just don't want to work hard. And so I'd spent a lot of my life proving that I could work hard. I started martial arts. I became a national champion in martial arts. I became a Marine Corps officer, right? I've run a marathon. I've done all of these things to try to prove that I can work hard, right? I built a business to 6 figures, doing a whole bunch of extra work that like I was talking to Randy about this the other day. I will never build another business the way that I built this business, just because it was way too hard. But I had to get to that level where I had done it. For me personally, psychologically, I had to get to that level where I had done it to prove to myself that I was willing to work hard. And what's crazy is, most of the people around me who look at me, that's what they think of me. They think that I work hard. But the working hard isn't what gives me fulfillment. As a matter of fact, what I learned from doing the hard work in so many instances is, I really don't like working hard, because generally the result of that hard work to me isn't worth the work that had to go into getting that result. And so one of the things that I go into companies with, and Randy, you and I've talked about this before, there is a matrix that you can put together that says how much effort is necessary to how much reward you're going to get for the thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of times,
proportionate, otherwise you're going to lose steam.
Right. And I'm a big fan of high reward, low effort things. But it took me a long time to get comfortable liking to hang out there. And it's so funny, because as I've continued to study, right, you know how it is. You get to 6 figures and then you start looking at 7 figures, and you get to this place, and when you're starting to try to make 7 figures and 8 figures and 9 figures, you start looking at people who have made 7 figures, 8 figures, and 9 figures. And here's the interesting thing about all the people that I see that make 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. None of them are talking about, man, I'm so glad that I work so hard. None of them are like,
I'll make you 20%.
No problem. None of them are like, let's grind, right? Like the ones that do are generally not talking about their grind. They're talking about your grind so that you can get to where they are, right? Like it's one of those things that's so amazing to me. Now, you got some workaholics out there and they just love working, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, if you look at the people that are making, like I said, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures, what they're trying to figure out is how to get more done in less time. Yeah. Because they understand that time is the constant. Time is the one thing you can't make any more of, right? Alan Weiss, in his book, $1 Million Consulting, he says, wealth is time. Riches is money, and money allows you to do different things. But if you want wealth, you can only be wealthy by recapturing your time.
Man, I was listening to a podcast with Rory Vaden. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy. Rory Vaden with Lewis Howell. And of course, being a man of leisure, when I get onto something, I have the time to literally spend time with it. And this is how I built what I do. Now, I didn't, I'm not sitting over here saying, things are, in the $1 million. No. What I'm saying is that I did it from a different perspective. I did it from the old Dave Ramsey approach, right? Don't have a high burn rate. Therefore, you don't have to get on a hamster wheel, because you don't have a lot of places to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way, right? And then of course people have the revenue generation way, right? They're sitting on a pile, or they're retired, or whatever it is, right? And then that becomes their deal, right? If they can get there with all of their faculties and energy and all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, I'm listening to Roy Vaden talk, and it really reminded me a lot of how, you know, your rap, right? It's look, time, here's how you get more time. And I started looking at some of the things that he spoke about specifically, is how do you multiply time?
Exactly.
Right. And I remember I got a book in the back of my head that I wanted to write called How to Bend Time to Your Will. And I had the old, you know, the old look that I'm bending time, like, you know, like Mesmer, you know, like bending time, and time is just like, oh. And then go into how you bend time to your will. So when I listened to that, that's why it attracted me. So when you're saying things like this, man, when we take that hustler, right? And then what we're doing with our consultancy, you know, 2BGM's consultancy, is now going into companies, and we're looking at everything so that we can find them money.
Yes.
And then if we can start looking at, okay, here's their hustle moves. And, you know, some companies will probably have systems, right? Because we're kind of deciding and determining on what size of company, and they're going to have some systems. They're going to have gone to all the good events and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think if we can find that where they're doing more work, and then we introduce the software approaches, right? Because I've become a very big software guy with the idea of getting back time, bending time to my will. So that's what we're talking for you, right? How do you bend time to your will? Get more of it, multiply it, right? And I love what Rory said. He says, you cannot manage time.
Exactly.
And that's something I heard in one of your reading.
Exactly.
You don't want to manage time. Right? Stop that.
But you can master your time and your energy by multiplying, right? Yep. Instead of dividing. No, I love that point. And it's so the key thing is, the first piece, for those of you all that are listening, the thing that I want you to take away from this is, the first thing that you have to do is there's a paradigm shift that has to happen. You have to understand that there is no utility in spending more time than is necessary doing the thing.
There's no utility. Repeat that, because that's some gold. That's some bars, right? As they say in the rap world, right? That's some bars.
Right. There's no utility. There's no usefulness in spending more time than is necessary doing the thing, because time is the only thing that you can't get back, right? And that was for me, you know, like Randy, we talked about this before, you know, I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor, and one of the things that one of my instructors had talked about, right? And so this is the grandson of Grandmaster Elio Gracie, who was one of the progenitors of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu back in the early 1900s, right? One of the things that he talked about was, most of us, when we start jiu-jitsu, because we're afraid of it failing, because we're starting, because we don't want the move to not work, we start using this much energy. The move requires this much energy, though. It's always required this much energy. From the moment you learn it, forever, it only requires this much energy. But we start up here because we're afraid that it's going to fail. We're afraid it's not going to work. And over time, our journey, exactly, our journey is to use less and less and less and less and less and less energy till we get here. And then it fails, and then we bring the energy back up to what's necessary. So the key is, if you can change in your mind this concept of, I want the move to work, so I'm going to use a bunch of energy, down to, let me see where the move isn't working and raise up my energy so that it works. It's a much faster way to learn how much is necessary, right? This, if you look at Lean Startup with Eric Reese, he talks about it, right? Minimal viable product. It's all this concept of do just enough to make it work. You want to start from a position of, we're going to try something and we're going to see if it works.
Yeah, that's that validation point, sure.
But it takes the change in paradigm, because most of us feel like, well, I'm not doing enough. And that speaks to your character rather than to your strategy. Your strategy is to make it so that you only do as much as is necessary so that it works. Because that will save you time, that will save you energy, that will actually multiply, because once you get it to the point where it works, now you can take all of that extra energy that you was going to be spending trying to figure that out and move it over somewhere else.
Yeah, that's interesting when you say it's a character situation versus a strategy situation. So something in your soul, something in your way, something in what you do has you either propelling or stuck, right? And it's really interesting unwrapping someone's character from themselves. And this is something we've got a client that we're going to be working with based on, what we're going to be doing with the 2BGM consultancy, right? Going in and finding them opportunities within their business, right? And that's one of the things I remember talking with her about. I remember, when we were getting to the point where we were closing the deal, and she says, well, I've always done it a certain way. She said, I've always not liked when consultants come in, they tell you what to do, and then they bounce, they leave. Right. And one of the reasons why we're talking about the model that we're talking about, hey, if we find you 5 or find you 10, give us 5, but we're talking about give us 5 in perpetuity, right? Or whatever period of time we talk about. Because we want to, obviously, if we continue to utilize that flywheel and we find you 20, then it escalates up, right? It becomes a degree of an equity play, but that's fair. It wasn't there before. It is now. We found it for you. We utilize all the techniques. We brought in all of our experiences, our software. We've done these things for you, right? But anyway, so when I'm talking with her, she was like, I have a way. Right. And oftentimes you have a way. I have a way. And oftentimes it does work. Sure. Exactly. Most things will work. But you've got to ask yourself this question at whatever stage of business or life you're in. But should I be using this way?
Exactly.
Right? And that's where the character part comes in, right? It's
give you a perfect
can I
example.
Let go?
I give you a perfect example of this, right? So I'm doing a jiu-jitsu class the other day and I'm rolling with a guy. Right. And I love jiu-jitsu because it's a tangible example. Like you can see it immediately when things happen. So I'm rolling with a guy now in jiu-jitsu, there are a couple of dominant positions, right? You can be on top of somebody and where you're on top and they're on the bottom. That's a dominant position. You can also have somebody's back because from there you can do a whole bunch of stuff and they can't really reach you. Right. So when I'm rolling with people who are, less experienced, white belts and things of that nature, then a lot of times I allow them to work on stuff and I just work on my defense. And so this is one of those cases where I give this guy my back so I can work on back defense and he can work on his attacks from the back. Here's the interesting thing though. In this moment, he gets my back and he's hyperventilating. Like he's
working hard.
He's working hard, right? The crazy piece, though, is he's in the dominant position. He's in the position where he's winning. It doesn't take all of that energy to do all that. And I had to literally sit and talk to him as we were rolling with training because try to be a good training partner. I'm like, calm down, relax your breathing, right? Chill. And we talked about this afterwards because again, this gets back to that whole concept of we have in our minds that we're supposed to be working hard, that we're supposed to be doing things quickly, we're supposed to be doing all this type of stuff. And it is a paradigm. It is something that literally for the last 20 years, right, I have been working on moving away from because of the conditioning that I had up until that point.
Character. That's what's in you.
Right. And it was the belief that it was tied to my character. It's in some way because I figured out how to do things quickly, because things didn't take as much work for me to accomplish them as they took for other people, then somehow I was cheating or I was cutting corners or I was lazy. That was the inner talk that I had in my head that I had to overcome. And it was the same thing. And one of the things that has helped me is part of my jiu-jitsu journey, but also in my life journey is understanding what your energy is necessary for, right? So many of us think that the only thing that our energy is necessary for is this thing. And when you think about it, right, this is why when we talk about sports jiu-jitsu versus self-defense jiu-jitsu, this is one of the reasons why it's important. So often we're training for the wrong fight. So often we're training for the wrong thing. And this is what I was understanding in shifting from my mindset from 6-figure to 7-figure business. I was training to run a 6-figure business, which was not my goal. It was never my goal. Right. And there's a lot of people, right? A 6-figure business is in the top 30% of businesses in the country. Somebody running a 6-figure business is doing a decent job. And for a lot of people, that is the standard. They're like, if I can have a job where I make enough money to just take care of my family, life is good, and I get to work by myself, and it doesn't bother me that I work 50, 60 hours a week. Right. But here's the interesting thing. In this, if you're trying to build a 7-figure business, if you're trying to do more than just have that, then the things that are successful over here will actually be detrimental for you over there. In sports jiu-jitsu, a lot of times you're fighting somebody in your same weight class, you're fighting somebody for a prescribed time limit, and you're being judged based on how aggressive you are, based on how many points you score, based on a whole bunch of other things. So it creates a paradigm that says, I have to be aggressive. I have to work. I have to do, right? Whereas when you look at self-defense jiu-jitsu, the whole concept is this. You don't know whether the person's going to be bigger than you, stronger than you, faster than you, more athletic than you. You don't know how long the fight's going to last. And at the end of the day, you need to go home. So when your objective is going home, you want to be able to last as long as is necessary to go home. And it changes the way that you interact. Right? When you know that the fight is only going to be 3 minutes, then you can go ahead and go all out. But what if that fight then turns into 20 minutes? Right? What if there's some chasing involved? What if there's all these other types of things? And so I say all that to say, so many business owners get into business just trying to get to the point where their business is surviving.
They're planning for the wrong business.
Even though they got into this business to have it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they're doing work like they're just trying to survive.
And that's what's funny. And I think an opportunity and why we decided to enter into this particular space to help businesses, right? Because of these perspectives is being able to see this thing and being able to go in and then make that suggestion. Now, what I'm curious about is when we are going and talking with that business owner, the resistance. Now, this is why we do these web classes. This is why we do these webinars, so that we can kind of come in and say, okay, here's where your mindset may be. But we're trying to loosen up the soil a little bit because we want to plant something interesting or plant something different in there, right? Now, your soil's compacted. It's like, it has its character. It's, it's fine. Blah, blah, blah. But if it's not in a position to receive new seeds, then nothing's going to grow. So that's kind of the metaphor that we like to present to business owners. Hey, let us loosen the soil. Let us plant something, the minimum viable product. Let us just trust us. Trust the planters here. And then as something grows, give us some of the harvest. That's what we're suggesting, right? And this is pretty much it in a nutshell. Any business, now we've got specific businesses that we like because we have some experiences in, but we kind of look at a concept and we go, okay, here's the business that you're in or you think you're in. Here's how we believe we can grow it. Will you let us? And that's what I'm curious about, Rob. How much resistance? Let's take, for example, the young lady you were talking about, making a grand, hustling like crazy, taking in all kinds of stuff. How resistant was she when you says, okay,
no,
here's why we have to do it a different way?
That's a really good question. And to that point, I think one of the things that makes us beneficial to the business owners that we work with, and I'll get to answering that in just a second, but one of the things that makes us beneficial to the business owners that we work with is that we've worked with so many different industries. We work with hundreds of different business owners in hundreds of different industries already. And here's the commonality. This is the thing that I've noticed. And with that young lady, so I generally see resistance initially because their mind is trying to change to the paradigm and trying to understand. But here's what I see.
You have to show them the dollars first. Like, look,
not even so much. Not even so much
working.
Not even so much that. Not even so much that. Well, what I've noticed, and you and I've talked about this before. Business owners it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. If you're struggling financially, here's the problem that you have that you don't want. There's one of two things that you're dealing with. And if this is you, go ahead, hit the like button, put a comment below, do something like that. You either A, do not have enough revenue coming in. And so you're trying to figure out how you can get more revenue, or B, you're spending too much time to get the revenue that you have coming in. And so you're trying to figure out, how do I reduce how much time I am spending in this, because it's unsustainable, right? So one of two things is happening in most of the businesses that I deal with. They're either unsustainable as far as where their revenue is currently, or they're unsustainable as far as how much time they're having to put in to get that revenue. And so the pushback is generally that they have those two things linked. They think that the time that is necessary, just like I was talking about, this is the reason why I think it's so beneficial, because I've gone through that struggle. I understand that space of feeling like if you're not putting in a lot of time, you're somehow shortchanging. You're somehow not providing value. And what we do is we help business owners to figure out what is the actual value add of your business. Right. And who is the person that benefits the most from that value add? And we focus on going and dealing with those people specifically. So for example, with the young lady we're talking about, what she did is she looked at all of the different customers that she had, and she looked at which of the customers were her most lucrative customers, which of the customers were the ones that were her best customers, that were closest to her ideal. And then we figured out, how do you go and get more of those customers?
Correct.
How do you go and spend your time focused, right, and get more of them? And if you are able to get a couple more of them, what will that do to your business? And immediately, once she saw that, once we were able to walk through that process, right? And it's a process. It's not just, asking those two questions, right? It's a process of getting business owners to that. But once she was able to see that, she was able to execute on it. Right. And once she was able to execute
saying no to some things, didn't it?
That meant saying no to some things. But here's the other thing that was really cool. Once she was able to execute on it, all she needed was a little bit. All she needed was for it to work a little bit. And once it worked a little bit, she was able to double down and triple down and make it happen. And so that's why she was able to go from averaging about $700 to $1,000 a month, all the way to over $5,000 a month.
And it's an amazing thing when you see that transition. All right. Now that's Rob's story. I got another story. I'm helping a guy transition from academia. Now it's really difficult working with academics. And I'll tell you why. I'm a recovering academic myself. And I say that because I went and got a whole bunch of degrees. And then I thought that would save me. That would make me a better business person. It did not. But when you're talking with academics, they've got a way that has succeeded, because from that work, they've gotten A's. They've gotten A's on paper. They've gotten, PhDs or whatever it is. They've gotten degrees. So they've
gotten jobs. They've got money.
They got time. Yeah. So now in the space that we're in now, my deal is like, listen, let's create some digital real estate. Let's create some things that'll make you money for the long haul. So it's one of those deals where here's how you compress time. Because we're going to create a thing, we're going to do it one time. You don't have any additional marginal costs, and that's how you generate revenue for the long term. All right. So now that takes a different mindset. There, you got to put on your marketing hat. And his transition was very, very difficult. It has been very difficult for us to transition him until last week. And now, I a lot of people that work with me are on the subscription model. In other words, membership model. Right. So every month they pay me a certain amount. We come in, we do a thing, boom, 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 right? Now, I just looked on in my email, and he sent me double what he normally has to pay me, right, every month to work with me, simply because he finally listened to what I was saying on how to do this thing, and it worked. It worked for him. One of the biggest things for him was staying consistent.
There you go.
Right. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to try this thing, but it's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me some upfront stuff, because we were running ads. And in ads, you have to kind of find out what works, what language works. We were using some specific software. You got to let the software do its job. Right. And there's some other considerations in there. So one of the biggest things is going out and what we call A/B split testing forever, right? Any marketer would tell you A/B split testing is the deal. Just got to test until you find the one thing. Once you find that one thing, you pour the gas to it, kind of thing. So he had such a breakthrough, and I told him, and it almost came on the heels of me saying, I'm going to stop working with you. And because if you don't listen, I'm going to stop working with you, because you're spinning your wheels. You're doing things that I'm telling you not to do. You're adding stuff to stuff that we set up in place. And I'll give you an example. When I say, hey, listen, send this email, send it this way, say this thing, say it this way. And you come in, I look at it, I was like, well, the email wasn't sent consistently. And it didn't say what I told you to say. Because what I will do is I'll say, listen, this is the kind of email that engages the audience so that they give you money. Right? It's one of those deals where you kind of go, we talked about this in one of our copywriting episodes. Say a certain thing, get into where people are, where they're already mindset wise thinking, and it just works. Right. So finally, he just says, fine, I'm doing it. And he did it. And oh my gosh, he got paid like a lot of, more than he's ever made. And so he's like, oh my gosh, it's work. And then I put him under the task of, we typically would meet every week, right? And I says, I want you to tell me by Tuesday how this works, because I didn't want a week to go by, right? And that's also time stamping. And this is like what we're doing out there right now. How we're saying we want to be able to find this money in your business in a certain time frame.
Exactly.
Right, because that's the focus point.
Right. This isn't, in 5 months, we'll find you $10,000. No. We're
saying, hey, listen, we want to come in and we want to find this money in 30, 60, 90 days. Because that's that turnaround point. They talk about the body. I'm remodeling my body, right? And they talk about this. They say every 3 months, your body remodels, or it does a thing, right? And that's when you want to take most of your tests, you want to look at them in a 3-month window, 90-day window, right? So that's what we're looking to do is in 90 days, let's find this money for you, right? Probably before, because we should be able to go in there and take a look at it.
And to be clear, we find the money in an hour. The
whole idea is that we look at if we have, and this is, we're going to be working with somebody and we'll report out. We've got to get some permissions and stuff like that. So we've got,
we got some case studies coming for you all to just,
I got another one in Las Vegas too, that I want to tell you about. I'm going to be reaching out to her. So, okay. So we'll have the case study in front of you, right? We're going to go in and be able to go, oh, okay. We'll find that stuff in an hour. Now that sounds unbelievable because it's like, oh my gosh, in an hour. And we don't want you to feel bad if we see it and you don't.
Exactly.
But we're bringing in different perspectives and having worked with a whole bunch of people and businesses, industries and right? But when we find it, even if you can't see it, and I mean see it as, how am I going to get this money? Well, that's the work that we do.
That's the difference.
And that's why we ask for
to go back to go back to what you talked about before, right? Seeing the money in your business, and this is the distinction between what the Two Business Guys Mastermind is about. There's a lot of business coaches and a lot of business people out there that can walk in and show you where you're missing money, right? In all the consulting I've ever done, I've worked with other consultants, I've seen it. That's not the difficult part, even though it feels difficult from where you are. But like like the lady we're about to be working with says, most consultants come in and they say, hey, here's this money.
Goodbye.
Right? All right, I showed you. Here's what you need to do. Do step 1, 2, 3, and all right, there you go. And they leave. And the distinction is, right, that's kind of what Randy was talking about, dealing with academics. There's a lot of people that know what you should be doing. Right? You can go and watch videos and watch webinars and all the rest of that. You've gotten a lot of what you should be doing just from watching us back and forth all the time, right? Like we drop knowledge about what you should be doing all the time. The difference between what that is and what you get when you work with us is that not only do we tell you and show you what you should be doing, what can be get you to where you're trying to go. But more importantly, we help you understand why you're not doing it. And we help you to overcome that issue, right? We don't just give you the information and bounce. We are going to work with you to implement the things that you need to implement to make it happen, right? We're going to help you remove those roadblocks. We're going to help you to remove those obstacles that are in your way to your success, because a lot of them are psychological. A lot of them are paradigm shifts. A lot of them are things that you're thinking. But some of them are also systems that you don't have in place. We have the knowledge and the expertise to do that. That's what we do for clients. And so for all of you all that are out there listening, the thing that you want to hear is not only are we going to find the money for you in your business, we're going to help you figure out how to do it. Not we're going to do it for you. Because here's the thing. When we do it for you, then you constantly need us to continue to do it for you.
Right.
But instead, we're going to help you to do it for yourself so that you will always have this ability.
And now think about that for a minute, everybody. We've just told you, we don't want you reliant on us. We want you capable, right? And that has its own value.
Exactly.
If we can encourage and point out and suggest and help you build the muscle of capability. Like, for example, Rob was talking about the woman that went from $700 to $1,000 to $5,000 top line revenue, right? Now, imagine how she must be feeling right now, thinking, oh my gosh, I've got this way. I've got this thing that I can do over and over and over again. That's where the value is. And I tell you, Rob, it's like the approach that you talked about earlier when we started this conversation on the work harder approach, right? Mine, what I learned somewhere along in my journey, that immersion works for me, right? And that immersive approach, once I get it, because I don't like things to feel extra, because life will make those extra things fall off. Exactly. What I do is to say, if this is something that's just a part of the fabric of what I do, then it's not feeling like extra. In other words, it's like building the habit. Charles Duhigg talked about that,
exactly. The habit. That's it. That's how you
make it like a habit. So now what has happened is now it's a habit for me to be able to see. I'm like out of the matrix, right? I can see opportunities all over the place. Right. And if I read something, I can go, oh, I get it immediately. I see something, I'm like, yep, I see what's happening here. I see how they're doing it. And then the replicatability. Right. Then, because there's so many tools at my disposal, I can replicate it. That's one of the parts, man, when you can look at a situation and you go, yeah, I can replicate that. You can reverse engineer it really, really quickly. Then that's when you've gotten to the point where you know you can do it over and over again.
Over again.
That's what we're instituting here. So what makes us different? What's our unique selling position? Is that, first of all, you're getting 2 for the price of 1. Right? We're going to come in and we're going to do this for you. This is how we get compensated. That's different. Some people are like, drop 10 grand before we even come in. Let us find 10 grand, give us half. Right? And let's do that over and over again. You're going to be overjoyed because, off the top, nothing's hitting your bottom line until money comes in. That's, I don't know an offer that's better. I'm serious. Yep. When I'm buying, I'll give you an example, Rob, and maybe this is selfish. But when I'm buying software, right? If I can immediately see how this is going to put money in my pocket, it's just a yes.
Yeah.
Right. If it's in any way confusing,
that's the whole thing.
If I go, no, bro. I'll give you an example, and you get smarter as you go along. Of course, once most of us in the marketing space, we kind of get the software. We know what's coming out, right? Because we have contact with the people that are selling stuff and all that kind of stuff. And they hit you up and says, hey, listen, I got this new thing that I'm releasing. Will you be able to put it in front of your folks? So there's one going around right now, and I look at it and I say, I can break it apart very quickly. And I see there's so many parts missing, y'all. I see the game. You say, okay, hey, you can do this. It's going to be in one place. But then most people aren't going to have, 7 or 8 of the things in there. So what do you got to do? You got to go buy those. Right? And then you kind of go, well, that's an incomplete picture.
There you go.
You're adding complexity, and that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
We don't add complexity.
And to that point, we intentionally wanted this to be simple, and we wanted it to be a no-brainer. Like at the end of the day, Randy and I are both, all right, like we do this for other clients. We take care of this. The reason we came together and we want to do this was twofold, right? For this, the two Business Guys Mastermind family, and for those of you all out there that are struggling and you're trying to figure out what to do. Like we've got a body of work. You can already tell whether or not you want to work with us. And we basically set it up so that we wanted to make it a no-brainer for you. At the end of the day, if you want to find $10,000 in your business that you can't see right now, that you can't figure out how to get, if you need that, give us a call. We'll find it. We'll show it to you. We'll have the roadmap for you.
30. Right now we say 10 because at first it was like 100. And then people were like, I can't visualize
right.
Because I haven't made that kind of money.
Exactly.
So we decided just to come in with a number that, hey, listen.
Exactly.
Here's that minimum viable amount.
Exactly. We'll do 10 grand. Like I said, it's child's play.
I just had a guy.
Right. I just had a guy yesterday. He was making $110,000. I showed him how to make another $110,000 in an hour. Like just these things that we're talking about. And that's the abilities that we have. That's what we can do for you. And that's what we want to do for you all, because what we want, our goal is to have more business owners who are changing the world, who are doing what they love, who are making money doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So that we get out of this idea that, oh my God, business is so hard. And no, it doesn't have to be hard.
And we're about to nerd out on you guys. So it's like the example I loved is like, okay, you got a problem with your pipes. The plumber comes in. The plumber, you've been looking at this pipes and nobody can figure out. This person comes in, goes to one spot, bam, taps on that one spot or does whatever he or she does.
Mm-hmm.
And your water's flowing again. So in other words, your money's flowing again. Mm-hmm. And then he says, okay, that'll be $1,000, please. And you're like, oh my, what do you mean $1,000? You were here 2 minutes. And he's like, look, you're not paying me for the time I spent on it.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying me for the knowledge of knowing.
And for the result.
Now, for the knowledge of knowing where to hit the pipe. Now, we're using the plumbing analogy. Mm-hmm. Now, you think about your business. People pay you for how you do what you do in your niche, in your specialty, right? Your specialty, whatever it is. They're paying for that, not the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at this model, and once that came to me, Rob, I started thinking, well, that's why I get so much knowledge on so many different things, so I can apply that to your special situation that allows you to get stuff done faster, right? And why a connection of now 2 people that can do that. 2 people that bring different skill sets, 2 people that bring different knowledges, so that we can combine that and says, hey, 2 for the price of 1. I mean, you're getting already the double, right? And that's what I was telling the young lady we're going to be working with. I said, listen, let me talk to my partner, right? I'll work with another person on this, and then we'll come in, we'll sit down with you. And she's very open. She says, look, I'll show you everything. I'll show you blah, blah. I said, okay, great. And then we'll find out. Here's the big deal. We have no problem saying no. Mm-hmm. None. If we get a whiff of that, we're not going to get our money. You're going to take it, or that you're not going to at least be open-minded enough to allow us to say, oh, there it is. Now let's go get it. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to say no. I mean, is that fair, everybody?
Right. So in other words, what he's saying is, who is this not for? If you're not serious, if you don't want to do what you need to do to make that happen, please don't pick up the phone. Don't ask. Don't question. But if you are the type of person that knows that you want to go and move your business to the next level, if you know that you're somebody that another $10,000 a month could dramatically change where you are in your business, then what we need you to do is go ahead, put the comments below, reach out, call us, and let us know.
We're going to leave all the information for you to reach out to us. Right? All right. You got a chance to see the body of work, all that good stuff.
There we go.
Do that, and then let's talk.
Right.
All right, Rob. Hey,
they say, 5 will get you 10. All right, let's go.
That's a wrap for what we're going to be doing. And talking to people about, today's web class. is literally for you.
Awesome.
All right.
Everybody
Two
have
business guys have masterminded, and y'all going to take advantage of it. All right. So let's talk again on our next one. See you then.